Well, I think number one, I think an Andrew Tate for Congress would be an extremely interesting time. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Trump, VP, let's go. Let's go. I'll go to court. Look at them already taking all my money. Let's go again.
Because the more I get close to politics and be around politicians and kind of see behind the veil of politics, number one, it's all narrative control.
Yep.
All politics is how can you control the messaging and the narrative at that moment. And the longer you can control the narrative, the higher probability that you have to win.
You know what's interesting you said about narrative control? We talk about the fact we're in a war, and we say we're in a culture war. War has always ever only been narrative control. War, the primary objective of war is to demoralize your enemy so they will accept your narrative. So in a traditional hot war, you'll turn up with tanks, they'll turn up with tanks. If you win, you're going to get the enemy. They're going to be afraid of you. They're going to be demoralized, and they will accept your narrative regarding your culture, your views, your currency, your religion, whatever it is. If two religions go to war, the objective is to destroy the enemy so they absorb your religion. They accept your religion because they're demoralized. So it's demoralization and control of the narrative. And even in hot wars, the primary objective is to get control over a certain geographical area, to control the populace so you can tell that populace what to think and force them to adhere to certain ideals. We're in a war right now. You just talked about narrative control. That's exactly what it is. They're trying to demoralize us so they can give us narratives that we're forced to accept. They're trying to control, we say about controlling a geographical area with a hot war. Okay, it's not a hot war, but they're trying to control the internet and control information because it's an information war. Alex Jones, InfoWars, he's nailed it. They're trying to control intellectual property and control property online to be able to purport certain narratives to a demoralized populace. We're in a very active war right now.
Yeah.
And just because there's no guns firing, well, there are, but just because you don't see guns firing, you think you're not in a war. You are the subject of a war ongoing. There are two teams fighting right now above your head. And depending on which team wins, depends on the narratives you're going to end up holding and your children are going to end up holding. So this is what's so interesting to me when we talk about masculinity and cowardice. If you understand that a war is going on, surely if you're half a man, you're going to look at the two teams and you're going to choose one and you're going to go join the team you believe in. Only a true coward would sit down and be quiet and say, let the two teams fight it out. And whichever team wins, I'll just agree with them, which is what a lot of people are doing. But surely you should sit and see that this war can't be avoided. Yes, I'm suffering because I ran my mouth too much. Yes, they're going to try and put me back in jail. Probably going to succeed. I'll be back with the cockroaches. Fine. I decided to make that decision. I'll smile knowing that I lived true to my heart. So I'm not a coward. But if you're sitting there being a coward thinking, oh, maybe I can avoid the fight, you're really a fool. Because if you say, I refuse to fight, you don't end the war. You just end your control over the outcome of the war. And all you're doing is handing your entire fate to other people. And perhaps the good guys will win. And then you can sit there and be happy. But you'll know you were a bitch. Or perhaps the bad guys win and you're going to wish you fought while you had a chance. But you can't avoid this fight. I run my mouth and I'm in a lot of trouble. Cool. But the war is coming for all of us. I don't know why anyone's sitting there saying, oh, maybe I shouldn't talk. You can't escape it. If you don't want to tell the truth, you're just going to end up a casualty of war. You're going to get there anyway. So, and I'll ask you, if we lose this culture war, won't you feel better you tried?
Well, and I don't even think it's a culture war. I think we are actively in war. I don't think, back in the day, we used to be an analog war where people sit around and they shoot each other. Yep. That is now the show part of the war. Yep. If you become Instagram famous and you have to show people that you made a lot of money, you got to go rent a Lamborghini and stand and flex in front of it. Otherwise, no one's going to think that you're famous. Yep. That's what the physical war is. We're in a digital age where analog doesn't mean anything anymore. It's messy, it's dirty, takes a lot of time, and it's hard to clean up. Everything about our life is digital. To think that war is analog is ridiculous. We are actively in a digital war, and we're fighting over propaganda, over information, over influence. Yeah. And that's why people that are against the narrative, like you, like me, like guys like Tucker Carlson, Alex Jones, even if you don't agree with everything that everyone says, they're actively fighting against the mainstream propaganda. Yep. And that's why I say you're a general. That's why Tucker is a general. That's why Alex Jones is a general. Because even amongst one side of the war, all the generals aren't the same. They all have their nuances, their way of communicating, the way they have to build their armies behind them. Not all generals are the same. but they're all fighting the same side. It's good and it's evil.
But this is my question to and I guess this is a question to the men at home. If you accept a war is ongoing and you accept that it's for the fate of your bloodline, how do you live with yourself as a man if you're not trying to make the good team win? Perhaps we're all going to die. Perhaps we're all going to lose. Perhaps you'll all end up in jail alongside me. But don't you feel like you'd be happier as a man if you stood there and said, I fought my hardest against them, and I tried to save the children and my bloodline and my society and my land and the people I cared about. I tried my best and they got me, but I tried. How are you going to live if you just don't try? And I find it amazing that these people out there who think that, okay, if I avoid the fight and I take the money, or if I avoid the fight and I have the peace and quiet, if I avoid the fight, I have the Super Bowl. How broken are you in your soul to think those things matter more than doing what you know is right? Look at humanity. It's always been men sacrificing their lives for what they know is right. I say I sacrificed my life. I did a little bit of jail and I've lost my money, or some of my money. Boo-hoo. I haven't had to charge at gunfire yet. Yet. But there are men who were braver than I, fighting for ideas they understood less than I understand the current idea. And perhaps their fight wasn't even as important as this one. I would argue there's been times where men took up arms to resist the invading horde. And if they let that horde come in and control their society, they would have been less oppressed than we're about to be. And they sacrificed their life. And we have men here at home going, yeah, well, maybe, I don't know. This mass pandemic of cowardice is how they're getting away with this, which is why I believe, I've said this a bunch of times, I also believe it's the reason they attacked me. They find masculinity so threatening because masculinity protects. I won't sell my soul because I'm a man. That's it. I am the man. And I don't care if I go destitute. I'll knock on your door and ask for a meal, and I'll continue to walk on my way towards wherever I'm headed as a man. I'm not going to sell my soul for money ever. And anybody who's sitting here trying to avoid this battle, all I'll say to you is that there's going to come a time, perhaps when the battle's over and we've lost, that you're going to wish you started saying the right thing. Because I feel like that time's running out. Yeah. I feel like we have a few years left where there's any semblance of freedom and also any semblance of social mobility. It's soon going to be so polarized. I've said this on a podcast a long time ago. There's going to be have-nots and have-yots. It really is going to get there. You have a certain amount of years to get money or get a network or tell the truth before they finally put the schism in the world, and you have the AI serfs who are controlled by their facial recognition, and you have the elites who don't have to listen anymore. And time is running out.